Good evening, Chair. Calls order public hearing for Bill 23-014 and Resolution 2423. I want to thank you all for coming this evening. I see some new faces, some unfamiliar faces. I have some business that I have to get out of the way first, so bear with me. The purpose of this public hearing is to hear comments concerning Bill number 23-014, which is the proposed annual budget and appropriation ordinance for Harford County for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, and also Resolution 024-23 regarding the intent of the County Council to consider a tax rate in excess of the constant yield tax rate as established by the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation in both the incorporated municipalities and unincorporated areas of the county. And Resolution 025-23, which is the capital program for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2024 through June 30th, 2029. The council also accepts and will consider written testimony submitted in addition to or in lieu of verbal testimony. The final tax rate will be adopted by the County Council in a legislative session on Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. to be held in the County Council chambers located at 212 South Bond Street in Bel Air. And then just as a friendly reminder to everyone, for those of you that may have not been here before, we try to maintain a certain decorum in these chambers. We want you all to be respectful of each other. We're here tonight to talk about business, listen to concerns and comments to, for citizens. This is one of the few venues that you can come to in the council or in the county and be able to speak your mind. But please be considerate of each other, considerate of all involved. And with that, Ms. Dixon, how many speakers do we have?
We have 38 this evening, Mr. President.
With 38 speakers, we'll maintain a 3-minute per speaker. And whenever you're ready, call your first speaker.
Smith, followed by Carol Keuchel and Nathan Beck.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Christy Crawford Smith, 25 St. Mary's Road, Islesville, Maryland. I'm a 22-year career and technology educator. Okay.
Start our time over.
I can use my teacher voice.
Yes.
Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me? All right. Sorry. My name is Christy Crawford Smith, and I am a 22-year career and technology educator who is proudly serving as the president of the Harford County Education Association. More importantly, though, I am the parent of 3 Harford County Public School students. In his first budget cycle, our county executive has made a very bold statement that he does not value public education. Now, you are in the unfortunate position to be on the receiving end of community outcry. I do not envy you. I know that many of you value our public schools, and I do appreciate your support. Our students are the future of this county. They are our future librarians, our future educators, our future law enforcement officers, future business leaders, and even our future elected officials. Yet, time and time again, Harford County is among the lowest in per pupil funding in the state. I've been saying this for over a decade. In the midst of a nationwide educator shortage, prospective and young educators are watching what's going on here. They have plenty of other opportunities, as if the vitriol from a loud minority of the community isn't enough to make them question their decision to work in Harford County. Why would they want to work for a county that doesn't fund at a level that demonstrates that they value educators, value public education, and respect them as professionals? Our strong public education system keeps people in this county. We choose to live here. Many of us, like me, grew up here. I am urging you to reject the current budget proposal and tell Mr. Castley to amend his budget. We cannot do more with less, and Mr. Castley's bare minimum budget is providing our educators and students with less. Do not get caught up in the nonsensical statements that HCPS is receiving more state money. Therefore, the county doesn't need to provide additional resources. Mr. Casserly is well aware that increased funding from the state is mostly tied to Blueprint for Maryland's Future. That's the legislation that he voted against time and time again while he was a state senator. Harford County is not broke. As a matter of fact, in the 5 months that Mr. Casserly has been in office, the county government has added more than 60 new positions and increased the annual salary total by more than $4 million. That information came from an MPIA request that I submitted. Now, would a broke county do that? Even the previous administration is questioning the revenue projections for FY24. Mr. Glassman's assertion that revenue is being inaccurately captured is supported by bond and credit rating agencies such as Fitch Ratings, who has stated they have confidence in the economy here and highlights our growth that it has exceeded inflation in their February 2023 report. I urge you to send Mr. Casserly and his team back to the drawing board to produce a budget that actually meets the needs of this county. It's 2023, not 1983. Please do not forget, we do not have bare minimum students. We do not have bare minimum educators. We don't live in a bare minimum community, so we deserve better than a bare minimum budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, let me do a little more explanation here. There will be no applauding, no outburst, and no warning. This is it. We try to move this meeting along, and if it happens again, I'll start asking people to leave. And if need be, we'll dump the entire chambers and people will wait outside to speak. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name's Carol Keipel. I live at 1704 Connor Place in Forest Hill. First of all, I want to apologize because our last county executive, I think he funded things he shouldn't have funded in order for political gain. And I am so relieved that we finally have a county executive that's going to be responsible. I think he's got a great budget. I think things are going to be funded that need to be funded as we know we can afford them. And I applaud him for being the adult in the room.
Call your next speaker.
Nathan Beck, followed by Danielle Bedsall.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
I am Nathan Beck. I live at 68 North Forest Drive in Forest Hill. I originally signed up to be in support of the budget, but since then, which was several days ago, I've seen quite a few things that I'm not sure I agree with quite as much. The budget cuts that were proposed were much larger than what I had initially thought they were to be. Along with that, I do still believe the police don't need a new facility at the current moment, but that does not require the immense scale of the cut proposed for them. I know that money can be very difficult to handle. I am now 5 months an estimator with my company, and it can be difficult trying to manage money, especially at such a high level. I don't have anything more than that.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address?
Danielle Bedsall, 1015 Young Avenue. Good evening. My name is Danielle Bedsall, and I'm a citizen of Harford County. I'm an employee of HCPS, and my most important role is mom. I have 3 students currently enrolled in the school system, and I'm also the president of CATSPA, the Association of Harford County Administrative, Technical, and Supervisory Professionals. This association consists of supervisors, assistant supervisors, managers, nurses, coordinators, planners, specialists, plant chiefs, programmers, analysts, team leaders, and more. Let me first start by saying that we think the county executive has put you in a horrible position. Essentially, he's asking you to agree that HCPS and the students deserve to be funded at the lowest legal limit. And he's asking you to agree that you think the school system deserves less than they received last year. And he's also asking you to agree to be 24th, last in the state for pupil funding. He's asking you to ignore our legal mandate for the blueprint. So for that, we're sorry that you were put in this position, but we're grateful to be able to express how important the funding is to HCPS and the community. We have an amazing county, and we need to keep it that way. We want Harford County to be a place where people want to live and work, and we should invest in our children's education. Over the past few years, under the great leadership of Superintendent Dr. Ken Bolson, HCPS has strengthened ties within the community with Harford Community College, the Sheriff's Department, and many other stakeholders. Everything in this county is connected. We shouldn't have a county executive that wants to pit one agency against the other. We're always stronger and more productive together. Just this week, Mr. Casserly spoke about the non-feedback and about the comments and feedback on the budget don't faze him because he's been on battlefields before. Yet he also stated that the unions are attacking him. To be clear, we're not attacking, we are advocating for our students and for our staff. Maybe a military analogy would help. Our front lines are our classrooms, and our teachers are our troops on the front lines, fighting to give our students the best education and the supports possible. And just like in the military, we don't leave our troops to fight on their own with bare minimum support. Our military is trained, they have state-of-the-art equipment, tools, and technology, often provided by our own APG in Harford County. There are so many other people that help support our students and teachers. That support ranges from bus drivers, bus attendants, mechanics, facilities workers, food and nutrition workers, custodians, technology specialists, administrative specialists, human resource staff, coordinators, supervisors, directors, administrators, school nurses, pupil personnel worker, inclusion helpers, paraeducators, counselors, and so much more. Our central office are the captains and generals or lieutenants directly supporting the frontline classroom teachers. The blueprint and the mandates are required by law. HCPS's support staff is necessary to ensure the mandates are met, and so our teachers can focus on our students in the classroom. The teachers can't get adequately paid unless we meet our blueprint mandate, and we need high-quality teachers to teach our students to give them a high-quality education. In closing, I want to thank you for listening to the community. We need you to let the students and staff of HCPS know that you value them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bill Montanari, followed by Laura Childs and Caitlin Himling.
Mr. Montanari, I don't see him in here. Who's after him?
Laura Childs.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Laura Childs, 1219 Coyote Court, Abingdon, Maryland. I'm coming to you today as a teacher of 18 years, all at Harford County Public Schools and all proudly served at Edgewood High School. And I'm asking you to not only reconsider the flat funding of our schools, but also I'm here to advocate that you fully fund the proposed budget by HCPS. Mr. Casserly ran under the platform that he was putting education at the top priority of Harford County. However, the release of his first budget made it clear that he does not care about education in Harford County. Mr. Casserly argued that it was his moral obligation to keep a conservative budget, but rather chose to use HCPS as his ticket for political grandstanding and a classless propaganda smear campaigns on government-based websites. I started teaching in 2006 at Edgewood High School, and 18 years later, I am still there. When I told people I worked, I got gasps and inevitably the question of why would you want to teach there? In my time at Edgewood, I have been punched in the stomach while pregnant. I've had a desk thrown at me. I've had my classroom door broken. I've been peppered straight by students on 2 different occasions. I was actually electrocuted in the old building. As Mr. Guthrie knows, the old building was a miracle. It would rain inside. And when I went to plug in my overhead projector, I didn't realize the walls were leaking, and needless to say, that was my first ever ambulance ride. I have talked a student literally off the ledge of our 3rd floor stairwell when he was trying to jump to harm himself. I have had 3 different parents call me to talk to their child because I was the only person that they could listen to, and they were afraid their children were going to kill themselves. One parent even asked me to adopt her child because she could no longer care for her. I've secretly bought lunches for students who couldn't afford them because their parents never signed them up for farms because they were living out of a car. But I've also helped students successfully interview at Princeton, Hopkins, Howard, MIT. I've helped students raise over $20,000 to build shelters in Afghanistan for Afghan refugees. I've seen the pride in my students' eyes, who was at a 3rd grade reading level in my 10th grade class, finish his first book ever. I've attended Eagle Scout ceremonies, football games, art shows, musicals, concerts, graduation parties, and now, because I'm old, marriages and baby showers. From 2006 to 2008, I was paid my contractual salary. Then 2009 hit, and for the next 7 years, I was paid a 2nd-year teacher salary despite being a 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th-year teacher. All steps were skipped under the David Craig budget. During that time, I got my master's, became AP certified, IB certified, received my national board certification, was nominated for Teacher of the Year, both times making it to top 10, one time top 5. Since then, I've been in charge of the International Baccalaureate Magna program. I've renewed my national board certification. I received my Administrator 1 certificate, my master's plus 30, my master's plus 60, and I was nominated for Teacher of the Year 2 more times since then. And all of those times was by my students, not once by a principal, community member, or fellow teachers. All 5 times were by my students. I bring all this up not to brag, and I bring all of this up because I'm not special, but rather I am the norm of Harford County Public School teachers. I am highly qualified and trained, and I am dedicated to serving our students in Harford County, and moreover, I'm dedicated to my kiddos at EHS, which many people in our community dismiss. I bring all of this up because Harford County has paid for these trainings for me. They have paid for part of my degrees and my certifications. And what happens when people like me
Ma'am,
with years
please
of
bring your
experience
comments to a close.
with training leave? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kate Hemlin, followed by Crystal Rufinacht. Danielle Venable, followed by Cynthia Poper.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Crystal Rufinat, let me see if I can, here we go. Crystal Rufinat, 700 Heston Court, Bel Air, Maryland. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I know many will come to speak tonight about facts and figures. I know you've been deep in facts and figures. So I wanted to come tonight just to talk about my students. I'm an educator and lifelong resident of Harford County. I attended Homestead Wakefield, Fallston Middle, Fallston High. I have a very supportive family, and I choose to live and to work here. Many of the students that I work with on a daily basis have a different story than I do. So some of my students tonight might not know where they're, some of my students tonight might not know where their next meal is coming from. We have some in unstable living situations. We have families who have had negative experiences in school, and students who are, and families who are in a cycle of generational poverty or live just above the poverty line. If the current budget crisis happened when I was in school, my parents would have done what they needed to do. They would have moved in with my grandparents, got another job, got me tutoring, paid for private school. As I transitioned to adulthood, I still would have known I could do anything that I put my mind to and worked hard enough to achieve. There are students and families that are currently in our county who share my story. At the end of the story of this budget cycle, they will be okay, whatever the result is. However, the deep cuts reflected in this budget will most impact those in our community of greatest need. Executive Casserly has made very clear his values in the short time that he's been in office. It's not enough to cut $39 million, millions more cut from the capital funding request, including some legally mandated projects. Going on a media PR campaign against HCPS, including using the Harford government Facebook page, posting a rolling video of central office salaries, while Harford government has over 2 times the amount of those positions making those salaries. We hear that the Board of Ed request for the past 3 years was fully funded. Why aren't all of those funds above maintenance of efforts being used for salaries? He neglects to share that for 11 years, HCPS cut positions to reconcile those funding shortfalls, and those 3 years have allowed HCPS to begin to recover and honoring steps and raises for our educators. Publishing incorrect information about the fund balance on the page also, and asking HCPS to do what he says should not be done with the fund balance. Accusing the teachers union of attacking him and being unwilling to discuss concerns in comments on social media and in a text sent from his campaign, all while not responding to thousands of citizens who have expressed concerns and the concerns of HCPS leadership. I come to you tonight because we cannot do this without you. We need you to be our middle. Executive Casserly will not talk to us. He does not care if my kids fail. He doesn't care about the trajectory of their lives that will remain unchanged. We believe that you do. I speak for a lot of educators.
Ma'am, please bring your comments to a close.
Thank you. So we ask that you please vote no to this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Cynthia Poper, followed by David Bauer.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and
Cyn-
address, please.
Cynthia Poper, 952 Angel Valley Court. Good evening, Council President, lady and gentlemen of the council. Unfortunately, you have become the recipients of the public ire over the budget. For that, I am truly sorry, because this dumpster fire of a budget is not of your doing. But again, you are taking the blame for the actions of another. While you are putting yourselves out in front of the public, he is cowering behind his sound bites and social media posts that are full of misinformation and meant only to further divide the citizens of this county. But he did not count on the fact that there's one thing that brings this county together: our children. The budget proposed for '24 does the children of Harford County a great disservice. Not only has the county executive chosen to become bare minimum Bob for our schools, he has also chosen to underfund Harford Community College, the public libraries, Parks and Rec, as well as other public services and community organizations that support, protect, and serve our citizens. What baffles me is that other counties are not espousing the gloom and doom scenarios regarding economic projections that our county executive is asking us to swallow. They are funding their community colleges, their libraries, their parks and rec programs. Plus, oh, by the way, they're funding their schools. In Baltimore County, mere miles from here, schools will receive $71 million over maintenance of effort. Even our conservative neighbor to the north only cut their system budget by 0.75%, not the 6% bare minimum Bob cut HCPS. The county executive made a large point in his various budget propaganda messages that he funded significant pay scale adjustments to the Sheriff's Department to continue to recruit the best candidates. Yet while we are facing a nationwide educator shortage, he is asking HCPS to put aside recruitment and retention efforts due to his bare minimum funding. Are we no longer interested in retaining our best educators and recruiting the best candidates for our schools? Apparently not. Other districts are recognizing the importance of attracting and retaining educators. And again, we will see our best and brightest head for greener pastures in surrounding counties where they won't have 35 or more students in a class. They'll have time to work individually with students that are struggling, and they will have the resources they need to make their students successful. Please reject the proposed budget and demand that the county executive do better for the children of Harford County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm David Bauer, 2952 Kirkwall Court, Abingdon. I strongly oppose the county executive's budget proposal. It is deeply irresponsible, it is self-inconsistent, and it's based on errors. Imagine that the county executive had come to you and said that we have a serious structural deficit that is an unsustainable burden on our county. So it is necessary to slow the pace of capital projects, flat fund vital services, even in a time of high inflation, and cut funding from our school system. And also, he wants to cut revenue by $20 million per year with a new tax cut. The only part of that I made up was the adjective new with tax cut. If fiscal responsibility was any sort of actual goal for this budget, it would not be renewing the tax cut that has been in place for less than a year. The cover letter for the budget proposal has the term fiscal responsibility right there in the very first sentence. The budget itself demonstrates the opposite. The county executive effectively pretends that inflation only exists in areas he wants to fund and doesn't exist for the others. The cover letter talks about the unfunded mandates for our school system from the blueprint, but the budget itself does not fund them. And then we get to the outright errors. The county's budget book contains wrong numbers for the school district's funding for the current year. So when the county executive has talked about a $22 million increase, even with his cut, sorry, it's barely more than $1 million, which doesn't cover the unfunded mandates mentioned earlier. I'd like to emphasize this is huge. All of the analysis and charts that the county administration provided concerning the school system budget, recycle them because they are wrong. All of the comments you've received that say the school district's budget is fully funded or cite the $22 million increase, archive them because they are wrong. There is a $21 million gap between what the administration believed and what actually is. And now, I'm sorry, the job has been left to you all to fix the county executive's mess at least as much as the charter and state law allow you to, which I'm sorry is not all of it. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Benjamin White, followed by Delane Lewis, followed by Crystal O'Leary.
Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
My name is Ben White. I live at 1425 Valbrook Court. Thank you, Mr. President and County Council, for allowing us to speak. You and I have spoken a number of times. I always found you to be a very reasonable person.
You're one of few.
And it's nice to see that we have a full county council. Thank you, Jacob. Nice to see you here. All right. I'm not going to cite all the facts and figures that other people have done. It's just that they mentioned, other speakers have mentioned in the past, we had that 7-year drought. Personally, remember walking through Target and realizing that I couldn't actually buy anything. I could put it in the card, but then I wouldn't be able to pay for the card, when the bill came. That was uncomfortable. We tightened our belt. But never once during that entire thing did we actually go backwards. This is a backward step. This is unthinkable. In my 28 years, I've never seen us go backwards. This is an unreasonable budget. You are all reasonable people. You shouldn't feel any qualms about voting no on an unreasonable thing. If somebody asks you to do something unreasonable, leap out into traffic, you would say no. They said, why don't you jump off the building? You'd say no, I'm not going to. That's unreasonable. The budget here is unreasonable. The effect it's going to have on students like this young man over here who will speak in a moment, he's prepared something very nice for you, is that in my school, for example, I teach upper-level science classes like microbiology. If this budget is passed, we will lose staff, and that class will no longer be offered. We're talking about going from class sizes of 30, 35, to 40, 45 perhaps. We will lose the things. We're talking about cutting Calc B. You have a kid who wants to be an engineer, perhaps wants to be an astronaut. Sorry, not in Harford County because of this budget. And more importantly, I think, is the effect it's going to have on the middle teachers. People have been around a long time like me. I'm not going anywhere. Let's be honest. You can do whatever you want to. To me, I'm sticking around because I've got no place else to go. I don't have any hobbies. People ask me when I'm going to retire. I have a captive audience for my bad dad jokes. Great. Plus, you always have rookies coming in. They don't know what they're doing. They're not going to leave until they get tenure. It's the 5 to 10-year people that we're going to lose. We have a budget like this. Those people are going to move 20 miles, what is it, that way? Yeah, Baltimore, all right? Because they just had a huge increase. Why would they come here and do the same job for less money? That's not reasonable. And teachers are very reasonable people, and they can add. So I'm suggesting that you do the reasonable thing, and that is send this unreasonable package back where it started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Delane Lewis, 2714 Pemberton Ridge. Thank you very much. I've been truly disappointed at the posturing being done by the county executive around the budget. We all understand that there is never enough money to do all of the things needed, but having open and factual conversations about the issues is better than personal attacks and half-truths that mislead and solve none of the problems. And no matter how you cut it, our Harford County schools are the least funded in the state. Consistently, 22nd, 23rd, 24th out of 24. And yet we are one of the wealthiest counties in the state. We have been doing more with less for decades, and it's showing. You cannot take the data out of context. You have to look at administrative pay, teacher pay, classroom sizes in comparison to other counties around us and across the state. You have to understand what is being mandated by the state and that the school system is required to provide. Some have become obsessed with the superintendent. It is ludicrous to suggest that the superintendent will be punished somehow by reducing the budget this harshly. Newsflash, these budget cuts won't impact him at all. They will impact our children, period. We will have bigger class sizes and a brain drain as teachers leave for higher pay, and we can't recruit new teachers because of pay disparity, and we have even higher class sizes. Casserly chose to bring the paramedic EMT program in all at once and at a significant expense to the county. I agree with Sheriff Gaylor that this should have been a measured integration. We do need to bring fire and EMT under the county. That is important to do, but we need to do it in a smart way and not in a way that pits public safety versus public education. And guess what? How do we think we're going to add a county-wide fire department and EMT system for over 250,000 citizens and pay for it without increasing taxes? If we want quality services, you have to pay for them. No one is going to magically make that happen with our current revenues. I moved here because of the school system. My property value reflects the fact that people want to move here, in a large part because of the schools. Our revenue is built off of our property taxes and income taxes, which we receive in part from the employees of the Harford County Public School System, who constitute the second largest employer in the county, second only to APG. Please let the community know that your priority is public education. Reject the county executive's budget.
Thank you, ma'am. Call your next speaker. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Crystal O'Leary. Live at 1639 Whiteford Road in Darlington, Maryland. I will say that despite the fact that I disagree with Mr. Casserly's budget, I do feel that he has done some things right. He has lit a fire under many educators' behinds, and despite the fact that we have very full plates advocating for our students within our schools, teaching, volunteering, staying after hours to meet with parents so that we can support our students because we want what's best for them. He has inspired me and inspired many of my fellow educators to start doing our due diligence and to become involved in ways that we may not have been before. I've sat and I've read and I have facts and I have figures and I understand budgets better than I ever have before. I've downloaded thousands of pages worth of budgets, Harford County governments, Harford County schools, and I've poured through them. And although that I can only say I understand about 25%, I'm doing my due diligence now. And I'm coming to understand that we can't trust people that are put in positions that tell half-truths. And the more that I read, the more half-truths I'm finding. Really, teachers need to be spending the time to do what we do best, and that's advocate and teach our students, advocate for and teach our students. I teach at Old Post Road Elementary School. As you know, and as you discussed recently in your budgetary hearing, it is one of the oldest schools in Harford County. We have leaky roofs. We're currently painting the drop ceilings white so that you can no longer see the leaks that are there, that are constantly coming through our ceilings. And despite that, we show up and we do it the best that we can for our students every day. We have this year a theme. It's the year of the wish. And on the back of my t-shirt and on the back of staff t-shirts, it says, "You're never given a wish without also being given the power to make it come true." I'm here tonight because our children's wishes, hopes, and dreams for their future hinge on the quality of their education. And I'm watching that slowly slip away. We fight and we fight and we fight for scraps again and again, and I know that each one of you is put in an incredibly difficult position. You're not turning a blind eye to this budget, and I beg of you to vote no. I do have some facts and figures, and I know that you've been hearing facts and figures until they've come out of your ears. And like I understand that we're facing economic uncertainties. Funding HCPS at the legal minimum. Right now we have 33, an average of 33 students in Harford County elementary schools. We have the highest in the county, and that comes from MSDE's blueprint. Larger class sizes mean a reduction in academic achievement, and we can't
Ma'am,
afford
please bring your
that.
comments to a close.
I love the county in which
Ma'am,
I and
your-
my family have
your
lived.
time is up, ma'am.
Last sentence. Can I finish, please? Last
Your
sentence.
time is up, ma'am. Thank you.
Tina Graff, followed by Cheryl Adams, followed by Robert Tucker.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Tina Graff, 1732 Boggs Road. I'm currently the school safety liaison at Fallston High School, where I work closely with our administrators, counselors, and our school resource officer. I'm here tonight because the future of our community are solely in your hands. I'm here because I'm hoping you will see the value in our educators and want to invest in our students. If you have any doubts about funding our budget, I invite you to come and spend the day with me. Like they say, walk a mile in my shoes, or you can take the 20,000 steps I take daily. Walk into one of our classrooms with 34 kids, some with IEPs and no support staff. Take a peek into our counseling office and see the amount of kids lined up waiting to see one of our 3 counselors for our 1,000 students. And if they're really struggling, we can stop by and visit our 1 school psychologist. Walk into one of our life skills classrooms and you'll notice we've been down an inclusion helper for over 2 years. Why? Maybe because the pay is less than what you could make at McDonald's. Listen as our secretaries answer the phone, telling one of our Strive parents that their nonverbal autistic child will not have a bus and they need to provide their own transportation because we don't have enough bus drivers or aides. Sometimes the steps I take are laps with kids that are having panic attacks. Walk with me and see that we don't have enough teachers to help monitor our hallways and bathrooms during class changes, and I can't be in 10 bathrooms at once. Then listen as a parent blames the schools for their child getting caught in the bathroom vaping or getting high, and they ask why the bathrooms aren't monitored. Pass me the tissues for the student that I see with fresh cuts that I escort to the nurse to report self-harm, praying she gets the help that she needs. Then watch as I break down in my office, and you can pass the tissues back to me. Enter the Fellowship of Christian Athletes meeting before school and join them in prayer. After school, we can then stop by the Gay Straight Alliance Club and join them in a craft. Perhaps with your great knowledge of academics, you could figure out why our test scores are lower after suffering the greatest pandemic in our lifetime. And once you've taken all of this in, consider how decreasing our budget will do anything other than hurt our community. Please advocate for us and reject this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Cheryl Adams, 2025 Colgate Circle, Forest Hill. I think I inadvertently emailed all of you with my request to speak tonight with all of my personal information. Feel free to call me. Before I realized I had the wrong email address. Anyhow, I moved to Harford County over 25 years ago when my oldest child was entering middle school. And my youngest child just graduated from high school 2 years ago, do the math, and is getting ready to graduate from HCC and transferring to UMBC in the fall. Over the last 15 years, I would say, I have noticed the support for public schools starting to erode in this county. I've seen teachers asked to do more and more with less and less. I would like to remind you why good public education is so important. A population that is better educated has less unemployment, reduced dependence on public assistance programs, and greater tax revenue. Education also plays a key role in the reduction of crime, improved public health, and greater political and civic engagement. Public education is the very foundation of a healthy society, and as such, needs to be fully funded. The education of our children in a safe, healthy, equitable environment needs to be our #1 priority. Our children are depending on it, our teachers are depending on it, and our future depends on it. Please fund our Harford County Public Schools fully. Anything less is being fiscally irresponsible. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Rob Tucker, 1219 Halls Chance Lane, Belcamp. Like so many other teachers in this county over the last month, I was involved in a campaign to implore our new county executive that he had a duty to the children of this county. That duty is funding our public schools. We wrote letters, sent emails, asked our friends and family to do the same. Imagine my utter disappointment when the budget was released with the bare minimum funding for schools required by state law, as well as significant cuts to libraries, parks, and community services. Thank goodness! You know, I didn't realize our kids were bare minimum. Furthermore, I didn't realize our outdoor spaces like Cedar Lane and Swan Creek were bare minimum. Looking over this budget, it's obvious what got us here. A sensible tax cut in a year of wildly skyrocketing property values. It made sense that we would have a year of revenue building and austerity to right the ship. But this budget contains no serious plans for future revenue, and it looks to contain some dubious claims like millions less in revenue with the same tax rate and more taxpayers. If I were on the county council, I'd ask Bob Casserly, what's your plan when things get more expensive next year? What's your plan when you can't hide your lack of foresight in a school building that you simultaneously underfund and then criticize out of the other side of your mouth because they dare to actually serve everyone like they're supposed to? What's your plan, Bob? I'd ask him when people are starting to notice the county park trash cans are overflowing because they haven't been emptied that week. When Flying Point Park shuts its gate before sunset, or the Mon Pa Trail stays washed out just a little bit longer after a hard rain because you haven't provided the funds to maintain them. What's your plan, Bob, when a man or woman struggling with addiction has nowhere else to turn but back to the needle or pill because the community program designed to support that person is gone? Is that really an investment in public safety when you don't give families and individuals the options to survive in any other way than to break the law? What's your real plan, Bob, for public safety? I would expect a man so dedicated to it to understand that it has multiple facets other than policing. When you cut services, you make room for more crime. But the fantastic thing is that your budget screws the sheriffs as well. Sorry for my language. It seems his motivations are plain, and I'm not going to mince words here. We could have the most perfect public schools in the nation, and he would have still found an excuse to defund us, because Mr. Casserly appears to align with public school abolitionists. He abhors the ideas of public schools, he hates the purpose of public schools, and he seems to hate that we have established in this county an incredibly efficient and effective social service which invites upward mobility and enables all of us to make something of ourselves in this great nation. He appears to hate public schools plain and simple, and his actions as either county executive or state legislator had never proved otherwise. And so I posit to you, Mr. President and County Council, that this budget does not represent temporary austerity, no. It is a permanent commitment to a less civilized and more dangerous Harford County. And if you can't fix the glaring school and services problems in the upcoming county council meetings, I urge you to return to sender and vote this budget down. I apologize for being incendiary. Thank you.
David Airing, followed by Jack Miklosh, followed by Karen Waller.
Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is David Eyring, 1110 Janus Court, Joppa, Maryland. Good evening. My name is David Eyring. Everyone calls me D. I'm a current graduate student at Towson University pursuing my master's degree in teaching secondary English. I live in Joppa and have called Harford County my home for my entire life, but I've never stepped foot in this building. See, I graduated Edgewood High School in 2016, attended 2 years at Harford Community College, got my bachelor's degree in theater from Stevenson in 21. But my dream for the past 7 years has to become a Harford County high school teacher. It has been my ultimate goal, my way to give back to what my teachers at Edgewood and every other professor on my educational journey has given me. But the person who set me on this path is over there, Rob Tucker. He showed me how fun and rewarding teaching can be, and he demonstrated how successful students can be when they have a teacher who is truly passionate about the subject material and the students themselves. I wanted to become just like him. And I feel I am so very close to achieving that goal. However, this proposed budget has made me feel great shame in my county. This budget cut tells me that Bob Castley does not care for his students, his teachers, staff, and students. I ask you this. Why would I choose to teach in a county that treats them like this? Why would I choose to come here when I could go to Baltimore County, as other people have mentioned before me? If it's more alluring, I would go there and leave my home behind me. Harford County needs to prioritize the education of its students and the support of its teachers if it wants to retain and attract us educators. That's where you all come in. You have the power to negate this budget and help us to provide for our students so that we can provide the greatest education possible. Our students are the future. They deserve better than this. They deserve to thrive. Did you know it's currently Teacher Appreciation Week? And I don't know, I don't feel very appreciated. I don't think anybody else, any other teachers in here do either. See, if you look at my shirt, it says teaching, the only profession that teaches every single other profession. Teachers are the backbone of our society. We are responsible for educating and preparing the next generation of workers for our nation. So when you take from teachers, you take from everyone else. This budget will have lasting repercussions, and those paying the ultimate cost will be our children. In conclusion, this proposed budget sends a message that education for our children is not a priority in Harford County, but our students deserve better than this. Now, as we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, I urge you to remember the value of education and the important role teachers play in our society. Let's work together to provide our students with the tools and resources they need to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
I am Jack Miklos. I live at 3103 Morningside Court. I'm currently a student, 7th grade student at Falston Middle School. And by defunding the schools, you're taking away kids' abilities to get the quality education they deserve. You're also taking away their ability to learn what they need to get a well-paying job in the future. Defunding the schools could also lead to paying teachers less. Kids don't always make teachers' jobs easy, and I know I don't always behave perfectly in class. So it seems like the least we could do is pay them well. Also, keeping a school running isn't easy when the buildings are run down with crowded halls and large class sizes. My sister's 3rd grade class has 30 kids in it. Even with an amazing new school at like Hughes Benefit Elementary School, and with great teachers, try to imagine being in a room with 38-year-olds. That's way too many kids. Finally, my family moved here because of the great schools, and if those schools stop being great, other families won't want to move here. So overall, defunding the schools won't help anything, it'll just hurt.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
My name is Karen Waller. I live at 2300 Shoreham Court in Bel Air. You'll be glad to know I'm going to scrap the speech because everybody that spoke before me has been very eloquent and given you all the facts. I'm going to skip to the last paragraph, and I still need my phone for that. I just want to say that we know that our community will thrive if everyone receives a great education. And after more than 2 years of duress during this pandemic, our kids and our educators need our support. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Benjamin Heiser, followed by Thomas Piddington, followed by April Hawthorne.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Heiser. I reside at 3412 Widows Care in Falston, Maryland. I'm here to discuss, obviously, the budget. Some of you may know I'm very active as far as the Board of Education, speaking with them. They currently have $50 million in a savings account. Now, it was once broadcasted that there was 90, and there is, but 40 million is allocated. 50 million is not. Now, if Superintendent Bolson, if he cleared that $50 million out of the savings account and gave it to the teachers, then I would completely understand why everybody would want to go ahead and fund Harford County Schools the way that they're being asked to be funded. However, $50 million in the bank is pretty tough to ask for additional money. You got to spend what you have, or at least have a roadmap for it. And he doesn't. When you look at his budget, it includes $8 million for a roof on Harford Tech, which is a sole source contract, by the way. There's no competition, there's no multiple bids, there's nothing. It's a sole source contract. $8 million for a roof. That blows my mind. Another issue that I have is actually with the Harford County Sheriff's Department. They do need the funding that they're requesting for. There is no doubt about that. Even if you think about questioning it, you just shouldn't. Especially with body cameras that are coming on board, now we need more state's attorneys. We need them to be fully funded as well. And I do understand that the budget that's been placed before you actually does not address those. If you do approve the Bob Castley's budget, you would then be shorting the Harford County Sheriff's Department and also shorting the state's attorney's office. Though I agree with him as far as his funding for Harford County Public Schools, I do not agree with him as far as his funding for Harford County Sheriff's Department and as well as the state's attorney's office. And also, let's not forget that during COVID, even Tony G recommended to the to our superintendent to use that COVID money for an HVAC upgrade. It made sense. Instead, they bought overpriced plexiglass. What are they asking for now? HVAC upgrades. This county, time and time again, has requested the superintendent to use money in certain ways, and he has then shuffled the deck. And now he's basically given the teachers a shaft. So let's not blame this wholeheartedly on the county executive. There's plenty of blame to go around. However, there's still $50 million that needs to go somewhere. And until that's accounted for, until that goes into the pockets of the teachers, I don't think this discussion should even go any further. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
My name is Tom Piddington, and I live in Haddington Court in Abingdon. And I am a product of Harford County Public Schools, for what that's worth. And I actually went to elementary school on what was Oakington, and I believe that is Old Post Elementary School now, so that will date me a little bit. But with that said, I support County Executive Castley's budget proposal. And that does not mean that I stand against the teachers by any stretch of the imagination. It's when I started looking at some of the figures in the budget, I was kind of astounded that according to what I saw in the proposal, 53% of the Harford County budget goes to education, more than half. Second biggest expense is public safety at 22%. That is a large number. And I am not advocating that teachers don't get paid what they're worth. They need to get paid what they're worth. But if more than half of our county budget is going to education and you are being starved and programs are being shut down, there's a problem somewhere, a disconnect somewhere. What I'm saying is more money isn't going to solve the problem until we identify exactly where the problem is or where the boat is leaking one way or the other. I came here prepared to talk on completely different subjects, but after listening to so many of you talk, I hear what you're saying. I still stand in support of Castley's budget, but I hear what you're saying. I don't want to deprive you of anything. And I'll close in some of the divisive communications that are coming out, not from you all, but from your leadership. I've obtained several memos that come out to you. For example, I'll talk about the rally that was held tonight, that it was talked about where you were going to rally up at and going to march to in the whole 9 yards. But at the bottom of the memo, it says not to share it on social media because they don't want them finding out about it. I don't understand what the purpose of bringing in a shock and awe surprise is. I don't understand what the purpose of potential intimidation might be. But why would it matter if it was public knowledge that the rally were going to take place? Because that memo specifically said not to share it on social media for that purpose. People like me who follow God, have a strong belief in the pursuit of happiness and wanting all children to succeed, all children, I don't care what your pronoun is, I don't care what your race is, but to succeed, are called ultra-conservative and harmful to children. This is coming from Harford County public school systems. Not necessarily, I'm not pointing out anybody here in the audience, but it's coming from the people who manage you and probably rallied you tonight. And I gotta tell you, that pisses me off. That makes me want to push back hard. But pushing back hard in an attempt to hurt you would obviously be wrong. You need to be paid what you're worth. But we need to find out what the problem is, because we're spending an awful lot of money on public education in this county and still coming up short. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
April Hawthorne, followed by Lee McCusker. Susan Scott, followed by Adrian Darren.
Mila, go back to your other two speakers.
April Hawthorne.
Next one.
Lee McCusker.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
I'm Lee McCusker, and I live at 320 East Bellcrest Road in Bel Air. I have been a resident of Harford County since 1963, when my father, Joseph Boone, brought his family here to start his teaching career in Harford County, later being named to the Harford County Board of Education Hall of Fame. My entire family, including my children, attended Harford County Public Schools and are all working professionals here in the county. The pandemic put every child behind in academics. Teachers and parents everywhere are still struggling to get their children up to the standards they need to be. Added to this burden are the emotional and behavioral problems that have developed as a direct result of the pandemic, resulting in more time and resources being devoted to troubled children in the classroom. Our county's population has grown, and our population of non-English speaking children has increased significantly in our schools. These children require extra time and expertise in teaching them to speak, read, and write English. Without these skills of communication, they cannot progress in the education process. We lost many teachers during the pandemic, some because of illness, but many because of frustration about a seemingly impossible situation. That left a bigger burden on the teachers who have remained in the classroom. The Baltimore City school system is a disaster. The Baltimore City crime rate is out of control. Is Mr. Casserly delusional in not realizing that these two facts go hand in hand? How many teachers will leave the system for other counties or other careers? What new or veteran teacher would want to work in a county where education is such a low priority? How many children will be lost in the cracks because of a severe lack of resources? And how many of these children will turn to a life of crime in order to survive? Do we want a county who raises productive citizens, or do we want to go the way of Baltimore City, where the education system has failed its children and the crime rate makes the city unbearable for many people? Let's get our priorities in order before it's too late. Don't approve a budget that, in effect, punishes hardworking teachers and, in the end, puts all of our children at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Susan Scott, followed by Adrian Darren and Laura Perrault.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Susan Scott. I live at 314 Street Circle in Forest Hill. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I urge you to pass the county executive's proposed budget. I understand that the budget process is always contentious, but the rhetoric and vitriol directed at the county executive for proposing a fiscally responsible budget that doesn't raise the citizens' taxes is reaching incendiary levels. I'm appalled and I'm just amazed at the emotional blackmail being played here tonight. The voters of Harford County have overwhelmingly elected Mr. Castley to rein in spending and balance the budget. We all have had to recalibrate our budgets and reevaluate our spending in the current economic conditions. Why do government agencies think they should not have to do the same? The emotionally charged rhetoric that's coming from Superintendent Bolson and the teachers union is embarrassing. They have even stooped to the level of encouraging the students to protest the budget over the morning announcements at a local middle and high school. This current HCPS administration and the teachers union are using our children as their political pawns. Meanwhile, academic scores are shockingly abysmal. Middle school math proficiency is 18%. We're just barely above Baltimore City in our math proficiency. Let that sink in. This administration has proven themselves to be unfit at the mission of educating our students. Giving in to their demands for more money than required by the state would be most irresponsible. What are we doing to our children? They're being indoctrinated into an ideology while academic scores plummet and their mental health is declining. The superintendent and board of education need to be held accountable for the poor performance. They should not be rewarded with more money. We need adults in the room. We've elected an adult as our county executive. I hope the adults on this council will have Mr. Castley's back and pass his proposed budget. Please don't bend to the special interests. Stand with the taxpayers of Harford County and pass Mr. Castley's fiscally responsible budget. And since no one else has said it today, may the 4th be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Adrienne Duran. My address is 1023 Old Pilesville Road, Pilesville, Maryland, 21132. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I am coming to you as a Harford County resident, a graduate, a proud graduate of the Harford County Public School System, elementary, middle, high school. I went away for college. I returned to Harford County after college, and I'm pleased to be raising my children here. I have 2 children who are now in the public school system, and I have recently become a substitute teacher in the public school system, Harford County. I've repeatedly, jokingly referred to it as a volunteer position because I have a regular job, but I've been told by several teachers that they are in desperate need of help for substitutes. So I said, okay, well, I'll put my job and my work on hold because I know that everyone needs substitute teachers. So I've been doing as much as I can to be a substitute here, and I would like to ask you and implore you to reject the budget and send it back to the county executive for adjustment because we need to fully fund the Harford County Public School System fiscal year 24 budget request because we need to provide for our school system, provide step increases, cost of living adjustments, and be able to recruit and retain our school system employees, which is teachers, food and nutrition people, administration, and all of that. And it's very frustrating, and I'm proud to be able to be a substitute teacher, and I hope that we can come to some sort of resolution with the funding. And I better not say I'm glad to pay more taxes to make it happen because my husband would not be pleased. But that said, thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Laura Perrott, followed by Thomas Scher.
I think you're on, sir. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Scher. I teach at Aberdeen Middle School, and I live in Bel Air, 202 Briarcliff Lane. I wanted to point out that I live in Bel Air. My children are graduates of Harford County Public Schools from the depth and breadth of Harford County Public Schools. I have a graduate from the IB program under Ms. Childs. I have a graduate from Harford Tech and a graduate from Patterson Middle School. I would also say that I am an educator who works for Harford County Public Schools, which is not a special interest. We are the public schools that serve the people of Harford County. I've been an educator for 33 years, an educator at Aberdeen Middle School for 28 of those years. I teach there. I love those children. I love the people I work with, and I'm dedicated to them. I would also point out to the people who wonder about the budget, you need to look at also the age of the schools that we all work in. Our building turns 50 years old next year, and we're going to be going through asbestos remediation. It's part of being in older buildings. There are costs involved with maintaining schools so that they are safe for the children that we teach and work with. I'm there every day for my students. Some of them don't like that, but I don't miss school. I'm there every day. I show up. I feel that Mr. Castley is not showing up. He is setting a budget that isn't going to serve our schools and is not serving the best interests of the people of Harford County. We need a fully funded budget. We need fully funded schools, just like the ones that were fully funded that set him on his path to a successful career. I don't think that he had to worry about the budgets when he was a student the way some of our students do. Now, some people are upset because our students are educated about things like politics. We need an educated student body. The fact that students are learning about the politics and the good and bad of it is a good thing. We need educated graduates. We need educated graduates to run the farms in the north end of the county. We need educated graduates to work at the manufacturing plants in the southern end of the county. Those educated people are the ones that are going to carry our county forward. If you're retired or nearing retirement in Harford County, you want those schools funded. You want those children getting a good education. You want them supporting you in your dotage. We all do. That's what keeps a county going. I would say that one of the things that we need to look at is the fact that he is expanding our firefighters and EMTs, and that's wonderful. But I frankly don't want firefighters or EMTs showing up who aren't also well educated. They come from
Please
our
bring your
classes.
comments to a close, sir.
Thank you very much for supporting our schools and supporting those graduates that the vast
Thank you, sir.
majority of us are.
Thank you.
Lewis Singer, followed by Janine Cantle.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Lewis Sanger, 1306 Cranesbill Court, Belcamp, Maryland. I was going to speak to you guys about a couple of facts and figures that I found kind of disturbing looking through the budget. What I can tell you with certainty, not having children is a perspective that hasn't actually been brought up too much. Our population has grown, but my entire generation, I'm 32, I'm about the age where you start having kids. I think maybe 2 out of my 30-ish odd friends group are having kids. We don't feel supported by budgets like this. You hear publicly that we are the bare minimum, and I don't want to raise kids in an environment where they're treated like they're only worth the bare minimum. This is true for me, this is true for my entire friends group. I have a couple of friends that are teachers, and they discuss how difficult it is and how few resources they have. And I heard a couple gentlemen earlier saying that we have a leaky ship, and I agree. That being said, you're not going to be able to find it unless you have, or you are attempting to, repair said leaky ship. If we are the lowest funded school, or county, I guess, in the greater Baltimore area, I don't see my wife and I staying here. We wanted to set roots. We wanted to plant roots. But you see stuff like this, and it's concerning, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's all I really wanted to share. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address for the record. Hold on a second.
Okay, thanks. Janine Canito, 305 Duffy Court, Forest Hill. I do not envy any of your positions. You're kind of going to be damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. There are a lot of strong feelings. Unfortunately, we live in a society where we believe that if we just throw just enough money at something, that things will get better. I think our current federal administration is a shining example of how that does not work. We all want shiny new things. You can't always get what you want. Our scores academically are abysmal, yet administrative salaries have grossly increased despite this. I know a lot of people speaking tonight have pulled on your heartstrings, myself as well, but the level of naivete and misinformation is astounding. I treat personally in my profession a lot of teachers. I am friends with a lot of teachers. They know I have no ties to teachers' unions or anything else, so they tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly. I hear real stories versus generic, grandiose virtue signaling. Sorry. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves, not because of money, but because of the lack of support from their administrations. They feel unsafe at work. They're tired of being disrespected, being assaulted, and having to break up student fights. No amount of money will keep teachers in their job. And that's not to say that our teachers don't deserve an increase. They absolutely do. I thought I saw a recent article in Baltimore that teachers were leaving in droves despite salary increases. Maybe it's old, I don't know, I just saw it this morning. So many people fall prey to Superintendent Bolson's masterful propaganda. He is excellent at it. I sincerely hope you will not be foolish enough to fall prey to that. Things have to change. And in terms of the Sheriff's Department and increasing their funding, by the way, rape is up 20% in Harford County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Emma Peller, followed by Zach Fink, followed by Jason Repeck.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Emma Peller, 1447 Redfield Road, Bel Air. I'm here tonight to talk about Harford Community College as a proud fighting owl. I am in my third semester of the nursing program at Harford Community College, and it has been a wonderful experience. My professors, the support staff, my clinical instructors, everyone has been amazing. And I've been lucky to have really great classmates who want to become nurses and stay in Harford County and serve the people of Harford County. And so many have been unable to do that because either they didn't meet the competitive requirements of the program that has to be so competitive because there's not enough to support all of the people who want to graduate with this degree. Or they've been in the program and had to stop because they cannot afford it anymore. Tuition increases are already going to happen for next school year, and I and many others are lucky to have scholarships, but there's not enough to go around. And cutting funding, which by flat funding in this time of inflation, that's a cut to funding for Harford Community College, is going to make these problems worse. There's going to be more and more people who want to be amazing nurses and teachers and accountants or whatever and serve Harford County who are unable to do so because they cannot afford it, this college cannot support them, or there's not enough teachers to go around. So please fund Harford Community College. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Zach Frink. I live in Edgewood. I'm speaking to...
I need your address, sir.
564 Jamestown Court.
Thank you, sir.
I'm speaking to express my strong opposition to the budget proposed by the county executive. I'm calling on this county council to fully fund the county's public schools and other vital public services. I'm also calling on this county council to vote against the proposed budget. The budget cuts needed and vital funds to our public schools, Harford Community College, public libraries, parks and recreation, and other needed services. I have attended Harford County Public Schools and Harford Community College. I also visit the public libraries, and I visit the county parks on a weekly basis. These budget cuts negatively impact everybody in this room in some form or fashion. These budget cuts are reprehensible. Reprehensible. This budget is not acting in the public interest. As the old saying goes, your priorities are in your budget. County Council, show that your interests are in the public good by voting against this budget, because the county executive has shown that his interests are not in the public good. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Jason Repack, 542 Country Ridge Circle, Bel Air, Maryland. So I had no intention of showing up here today if you asked me yesterday, but I was reading an email about the budget cuts last night, and my daughter saw that, and she goes, "What are you reading, Daddy?" And I said, "Oh, they're talking about cutting the budget for the schools." And she goes, "Why would they do that?" And I said, "Well, the budget, they want to balance the budget." And she's like, "But what does that mean?" And I said, "Well, it probably means you'll probably have more students in your class. You might have less teachers." And she goes, "That doesn't seem very smart. We have 22 kids in my class, and she's in second grade." And she goes, "We should only have 20. Our teacher can only handle the 20 good students or the 2 kids that are acting up all the time." And I go, "Okay, well, what about your sister? She's in kindergarten." She goes, "Oh, they're crazy. They shouldn't have more than 15. I go, "Well, Layla has 21 in her class." And she's like, "That is way too much." And I go, "The 4th grade class has 35 students." And she's like, why would they do that? Why would they cut the funds when we don't have enough teachers as it is? 35 4th graders in a class. That just to me is astounding. Our kids are our future. I'm a concerned parent. I'm not a teacher. I'm not involved in the PTA, but I'm concerned about my daughter. I came to Harford County, moved here because of our education system. I grew up in Western Maryland. They don't value education as much. We have a really good football program, but why I moved to Harford County was they have a very good education system. But then I started looking last night, and I said, hey, maybe there's something to how much this cut. And what I found out was Harford County has some of the lowest spending per student in the entire state. Even if you look at a comparable county such as Frederick County, if we held the budget constant, we're still spending less than them. And if we cut it, we're spending like $1,000 less per student. Are our students worth less than any other county in the state? That just doesn't make sense to me. And it's absolutely astounding that we would make these cuts. And I think that what we need to do is make sure that we fund our students, because our kids are our future. And there's a Greek proverb that says, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they shall never sit." And that's what education is. It's funding our kids' future so our society grows and becomes a better society. Why do we want to cut our future? Why are our kids these political pawns? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Christina La Nocha, followed by Ali Danage and Rachel DeLauder.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Christina Lanoka, 3643 Jarrettsville Pike. I strongly disagree with using our students to promote political opinions. Also, the schools are using way too much money to promote social indoctrination and way too little in getting our kids' math and reading proficiency scores out of the basement. Therefore, I am for the county executive's budget. Basic education, basic academic education is what is needed. Focus the current funds there. This is what is needed to help all our children grow to be independent and contributing members of society. And so I do agree that education is a right here because we are paying for that with our taxes. We are not paying to have social programs, and the schools are not mental health facilities. There are other programs and facilities for that. We are not paying to have pornography books and gender identity indoctrination. This is just pure evil and lies and the result of God being taken out of the schools. We are paying to get decent math and reading proficiency rates, which we are definitely not getting. The goal of our schools should be purely education. Please stop using our kids and just help them get educated. Matthew 25:29, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have it in abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. May God bless and guide you in each and every decision you make for our county.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Yes. My name is Ollie M. Danich, and my address, I spent 13 hours at 600 Red Pump Road. So, Red Pump Elementary.
Ma'am, I need your address.
300 Stevens Circle,
Thank you, ma'am.
Aberdeen. Again, 12 hours at Red Pump. So, every $1 million cut from the Harford County budget results in 12 lost teaching positions. Funding the budget is at the legal minimum could result in over 450 teacher positions. That means up to 15% of Harford County teachers would be laid off. These hardworking educators show up every day for our children and do not deserve to be punished for this budget. This is my 30th year in Harford County. I came from Louisiana, 8 years there, all in special ed. I work in a classroom support program. So I have ESPs working with me, and I was appalled of what they told me they bring home. And it's sad, very sad. They there with me, and I cannot do my job without my 3 educators with me. So therefore, please consider funding the budget. The budget includes just giving a step of a modest 3% cost of living raise. Our nearby system are giving educators step increase, as for Howard and Prince George's County, even as a high 6% in Anne Arundel County. Harford County Public School will not be competitive with these other systems, and other educators will look for better opportunities if a budget isn't funded. And again, I'm grateful. Come next week, here's my little 30-year watch I received from the Harford County Public School. So I get my little dinner next week. But again, I'm grateful, okay? As I'm limping, that's because of my profession or my job, my classroom support program, okay? I was injured in my leg, but guess what? I show up every single day because of my kids, because I love my kids. And all of my 38 years has been in special ed. So again, if it's not for me, think about my ESPs, think about the secretary, think about the bus drivers, etc. All of us are stakeholders. Again, as the lady said before, I'm going to quote this: to God be the glory, so for the great things he has done. Fund the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Rachel DeLauder, 770 Shallow Ridge Court. I grew up in Howard County, so I went to one of the most funded public school systems in the country. I've seen the very best. I moved to Louisiana, and I've seen the very worst. When my children were born, I moved back to Maryland because I wanted them to have the very best. I've spent 10 years building a life in Harford County and sending my children to school. If this budget passes, people like me who have changed their entire lives to make sure that their children have the best education will leave. Our teachers will leave. My children's school has holes in the walls and the ceilings. There are mice and snakes in the buildings. The teachers are substituting multiple classes during their planning periods, during their lunch periods. We should be building new schools, not cutting funding so that we can't even plaster together the crumbling buildings that we currently have. Our kids deserve better. And I would also like to point out that when the school system rankings go down, so do property values. And not everybody cares about the children and the education. I don't have kids, whatever, it's not my problem. But every single person cares about their property values. When the property values go down and the school rankings go down, crime goes up. Harford County will become undesirable to live. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sarah O'Donnell, followed by Jessica Piazza.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Sarah O'Donnell, 108 Regent Drive, Bel Air. I had no intention of speaking tonight. We have a ton of stuff, as every parent probably can attest to. We have Taekwondo, had to get a new car because someone crashed into my husband's minivan and totaled it. But I felt like speaking today was really important. I'm an educator in Harford County Public Schools, and I have 2 children in this county. I transferred to HCPS this year after working in another county for 14 years. There were many of my former coworkers who warned me against making this switch for a variety of reasons. I took a pay cut, I lost my tenure, as well as some insurance benefits to work here. But I came to Harford County so that I could be closer to my children and make a difference in my local community. In my position, I work as an ESOL teacher, English to speakers of other languages. I was overjoyed to hear that our English language learners were a major component of our student supports on HCPS's Blue Point for our students' future. I have absolutely loved my job this year. My students, their families, and my coworkers are amazing individuals. I support the classroom teachers, and this year, it has been amazing to know that I'm making a difference in my position. I really, truly believe that I have been so effective, and it is like the best feeling, and I'm not pulling on heartstrings. I'm talking 100%. It's been amazing. I am beyond disappointed that less than a year into my time here, educators are having to fight for money that our children need. I currently work in one building, and I am at risk now of being pulled into several buildings. Up to 3 is what I've been told. I'm worried about my students and my own children. We deserve better, our kids deserve better, and our county deserves better. I oppose this budget proposal, money talks. We have ESSER subs right now at my school, which are money that we've gotten from COVID, which I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know if it has anything to do with this budget. But what I'm saying is money talks. When you have money, you have people that can come in, that can be supports, that help those classroom teachers. It is so vital. I mean, we have so many things that we need, and we're honestly not just throwing money away. Like I said, I took a pay cut to come here. It's not about my salary. It's about the children and what they need, my own children, because I am a taxpayer here, and I do live here, and I'm not from here, and my husband's not from here. And I want to say that I will stay, but not at the expense of my kids. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Jessica Piazza. I live at 1939 Medallion Court. I also didn't plan on speaking tonight, but this is so hugely important, and I know I reached out to all of you, council members, expressing a lot of my concerns, but just to make public comment tonight. I am a school counselor at Fallston High School. I am also a mom of 3. Next year, all 3 of my children will be students of Harford County Public Schools. As a professional and as a mom, I ask you to reject the budget that is, I ask you to reject the budget and vote to fund our schools. There's so much misinformation. I feel so much divisiveness within my own social circle and what I see every day in the school building that I work. As a school counselor, I can tell you that my caseload at Fallston High School is in excess of 300 students. I do not purport that we are a mental hospital or can provide any such services to students. We do many things, and I would love to share with anyone wanting to know, any community member wanting to know what we do as school counselors, because I feel like the roles of teachers and school counselors are really being mispurported, and people are misinformed. So I would offer that up to anyone wanting to know more. I have received response from the county executive in regard to the concerns I've expressed to him. It's just very confusing. He's saying that he is funding the budget, that this is in the best interest of my children, and I just am having such a hard time getting to the bottom of it and really understanding what is going on. What I do know is at the PTA meeting, because I am a member of the PTA at my children's school, they announced that a 5th grade teacher will be cut next year. So we're already preparing for impact. My daughter is in a class of 30 currently. They have enrolled several students within this school year. And now next year, it's forecasted that she will be in a class in excess of 30, 5th grade. It's just really hard. As everyone has said here tonight, we want our children to get the best education. I really thank all of you who have spoken tonight in support of rejecting the budget. I'm so happy to hear your comments and so encouraged to hear your comments in support of our students and in support of our children. So thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to make this comment, and I really encourage you to vote to reject this budget.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have no more speakers, Mr. President.
With no other speakers, this will conclude the public hearing this evening, but I would also remind our public that we have another public hearing next Wednesday night on the 10th. Sir?
I apologize. I signed up to speak earlier, but I missed my name. Did I still speak, or are we done?
Are you signed up, sir?
I was. I think I was 8th on the list, but I lost track of my name.
Your name?
Daniel Meadowholm?
Yes. He was number 8. Name and address, sir.
Daniel Venable, 3359 Garrison Circle, Abingdon, Maryland. I apologize for keeping you all here longer. I planned on speaking and then leaving at around 7:30 so I could have dinner with my wife and my new puppy at home. I have not eaten since 11, but I don't think I would be able to look myself in the mirror without voicing thoughts from a viewpoint I have not heard much tonight, which is that of a new teacher. I'm currently 25 years old, and I'm the current band teacher at Edgewood Middle School. This is my 3rd year of teaching, although it's my first with any semblance of normalcy. We're fully in person. My bands can finally play without bell covers on the end of their instruments, and it finally feels like we're back on track after a couple of very difficult years. But it's a healing process that has just started, and a process that will be significantly set back by the proposed county budget. I am originally from Pennsylvania. I moved to Harford County to start my job at Edgewood Middle School and immediately fell in love with the area. My wife and I have met friends, engaged in the community, made up excuses to go to Vagabond, and we even recently bought a house here. But the schools, and especially the students, are struggling right now. Teacher retention is exceptionally low, especially at schools like Edgewood Middle. Some move away for family, others move away for opportunities, but in my opinion, most leave because the classroom environment was hostile due to a lack of resources and a lack of support. Teachers are heading for early retirement with the threat of expanding class sizes and mandatory coverages looming over them. At my own home school of Edgewood Middle, since the school year has started, 9 days out of 10, teachers have been pulled to cover classes, leaving little to no planning time that they are contractually obligated to have. And you know what's going to attract more subs and new teachers to fill all those gaps? Not a budget cut. Now more than ever, teachers need the county's support. With the proposed budget cuts, teachers and support personnel are going to lose their jobs right on the potential cusp of an economic downturn. Teachers and support personnel that our students desperately need. Class sizes would balloon, putting additional stresses on the teachers that remain. Schools would start cutting down programs such as the arts, reducing the funding that allows the music programs of Harford County to be so robust. Instruments wouldn't get repaired. Fewer students would be able to borrow instruments. School trips would be canceled. Kids would lose valuable opportunities in their school community. All students deserve an excellent public education, and the current budget proposal would be robbing that education from under their feet. I implore you, please, vote no and try to fund the school budget. Push education forward. Give students a place they can feel safe and a place where they can learn all that we can teach them. Give teachers a place they can come to every day and feel like their hard work is appreciated and acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is that everybody now, Ms. Dixon?
Have no more speakers?
All right, again, this will conclude this public hearing, and we'll be back in the chambers next Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. Thank you.